Good evening. Welcome to the show. Welcome to I Want to Believe It's Not an Orbit's Dust. Myself, Peter Wren, the chatty Cathy, the lovely Lynda and Trevor.
Trevor needs a nickname.
No title is necessary.
As I was doing the round table then, what can we say?
The eye candy.
Yeah.
There you go.
No, don't rhyme, eye candy, Trevor. So, how you been? How's Cathy been?
Doing okay. Yeah, doing all right. Not too bad. You know, it's heading into fall, which is always yucky in Alberta, but we're good. We're good.
Awesome. Got house full of sick people, and I was sick last week, and I'm still sick now, but I've got my throat back, so I'll hopefully do the duration of the show without coughing my guts up. But
yeah, we've been sick here too. My little guy got sick. Well, I can't say he's little. To me, he's little, even though he's taller and, a teenager, almost adult. But yeah, I mean, the summer colds are here and all of that fun stuff. So, have at it. Yay.
oh, it's my son. Hi, Mason.
Oh, hi, Mason. Oh, I'm
Wait,
glad
I didn't realize that you had a Mason too. I was like, when did my kids start? I have a Mason as well. I was like,
I'm so proud of him. He's just started his own YouTube channel, and he's getting right into the swing of things as well. So stay tuned. He's gonna be the breadwinner in this family before you know it. Anyway,
I like what he says. She says 2 seasons in Alberta, snow and mosquitoes. Yep, that's pretty much it in Alberta. Yeah, absolutely. Mason, thank you. I'm glad you liked the intro. That was
Lynda,
one of my creations. So I love to hear compliments. So thank you.
Sorry, you off. I apologize.
I thought that was sweet. How's everybody else doing? Lynda, Trevor, how are you guys?
Yeah, well, I'm okay. I'm a bit depressed because I'm having really hard times with my eyes. I've got cataracts, and I've been on this list to get in to have my cataract surgery. So it's for January, but I've been waiting since like February this year. So it's declining steadily. So now it's like, oh my God, I don't know. It's ridiculous. Like, just awful.
It's only one eye at a time, which sucks. And then you have to wait, right? So
exactly.
You'll be seeing great out of one eye.
Yeah, but you know what? At this point, it's like, whether or not I have my glasses on, I can't see a damn thing anyway. So I don't know. I guess I'll figure it out. January is coming.
Yeah. And hopefully it won't be too bad. Whoops. I'm sorry. I meant to hide that. And hopefully it won't be, too long of a wait before the next one. So,
Well, you know what, Cathy, you're the psychic. You think you can see what's coming on?
It won't be bad. It won't be bad.
I hope. Thanks. How are you, Trevor?
I'm doing great. Really, really busy. Working a lot on Western Idaho paranormal team down here near Boise, and we've just been doing. We're in our busy season, so just a lot of events going on. We've got, we did an investigation last night of a new location out here in Caldwell, a museum that had never been investigated before. And some of you, if on our Facebook page, you would have been able to join us live. We did a lot of some live stuff on there. Then we got public investigations coming up, and so team's growing, and I'm trying to keep up, and so life is good. We're getting into our fall season here in Idaho. It's not nearly as bad as it is in the Great White North. Fall over here is actually really pleasant. It's my favorite time of year. So leaves are starting to turn, and the weather's in the 60s. So life is good. No complaints.
Nice. I need to move to a warm country. Warm province.
So do I. I'm going to move back to Britain.
I'll come with you.
Anyway, this week's show. So as we spoke a few weeks ago, we decided to change it up a little bit every so often when we get gaps with guests that cancel and stuff like that. So last week, kind of going through some YouTube videos, kind of spiked an idea in relation to top 10 best rated paranormal show documentaries. We're going to, because I sent it out to the panel originally, but because the majority of us don't actually watch shows, it was kind of a piss poor effort between all four of us to get a top 10 in there. I don't watch TV, so I'm an advocate of that as well. And I think Lynda's the only one that really gives a damn about those type of shows. So what we're going to be doing on this show, we're going to be hijacking Watch Mojo, which is a YouTube channel, and we're going to be hijacking their top 10, which I understand the research come from TV ratings at the time, so there is some validity towards it as well. So let's get started. So we're going to start off with number 10. If I can just bring up the screen. So we'll bring it in right now. Oh, sorry, it's me. Okay, so number 10.
Number 10, Haunted Collector.
Oh, dude. What is that?
In the oversaturated market that is ghost hunting, Haunted Collector takes an original approach to the genre. Like most ghost shows, Haunted Collector follows a demonologist, John Sappis and his family, as they investigate supposed haunted locations. However, Sappis takes it one step further by attempting to find and remove the location's trigger object, the item that a spirit has attached itself to, and which in turn results in the haunting.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Jason, the water's running in here.
Yep, the show is essentially a real-life Ghostbusters. Sure, it's a little odd seeing Zappis talking to a lamp or another inanimate object, but at least it puts a fresh twist on the tired ghost hunting formula.
Do I think it's paranormal? I wouldn't jump to that conclusion.
Number 9.
Okay, sorry, jumped a little bit too far ahead there. So, what do you know about this show, Kathy?
Okay, well, I mean, John Zaffis, he was I think he is related to the Warrens. I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly how. I know that
He's a nephew. If I
think,
remember.
yeah,
He's
he's
a
the
nephew.
nephew
Yeah, he's
of,
a nephew
I don't
of,
know if
Ed
it's
and
Lorraine or Tony, but I mean, here's the thing, you know, I could go, I'd love to go into some of these mansions or places and say, you know, you've got a haunted object in here. I'm just going to take it with me. I'm going to take it home, you know, like, you know, the thing is that whether or not, you know, they're actually haunted or, you know, I mean, how much of the show, I mean, maybe people are having activity in their house, but I mean, you know, you could really point at any random object and say that this is what's causing it. Hey, there's that Tiffany egg over there. That looks really haunted. I think that I have to take that home with me right now. So, you know, that's the way that I look at it, right?
Oh man. That's
yeah,
funny.
I mean, you know, I mean, we've all heard about the haunted dolls. Now, if he was just taking home some useless Raggedy Ann dolls or something like that, hey, for sure. But you know, when you watch, I've watched, you know, some of the show. I've watched, I don't know, several episodes, you know, at one point, and it always seemed like the objects that he was bringing home were a little bit more on the pricier side. You know, things that you could conveniently sell in about 10 years and make some darn good money. That's the way I look at it.
If it was me, I'd be declaring all their Traeger barbecues haunted. They have to come home with me. You know. So, but I mean, and you know, and I think you hit the nail on the head, Kathy. It's you know, you got to make a television show, right?
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I mean, I've only been doing this, you know, 12 years or so, but I have never come across what would be a haunted object.
Right.
And even if I did, I don't know that I would be able to recognize it as such, because how do you figure out, you know, I mean, Peter, what makes a haunted object? Can you look at an object and go, yep, that's it, that's a haunted object? How do you declare it? How do you figure that out?
Well, in relation to the field and how we test to see whether an actual object is active, you'll take it out of that environment to see whether there's, I think, you know, whether there's any any other activity after that kind of thing. So you take the denominator away, and you basically then do the same investigation over again. And if there's no activity, typically what you would do is maybe take it to another separate location to do separate readings on it before you deem that. I wouldn't say anything's haunted. I think that's a term that's highly overused in relation to what the definition is, but in relation to an object that's active, I believe in the concept. I wholeheartedly believe in it because it's kind of energy has to go somewhere. That's a sign. It's actually a scientific fact as well, whether science chooses to pick whether they believe in what we do as well. Like energy has to go somewhere, and why not does it go into an object? The amount of objects that have been apparent over the last decade or 15 to 20 years since the Warrens Museum opened up to the public eye, even when Lorraine was still around, it seems to have increased as well, more than what it was when I first started. But
see, the thing is about the Warren Museum, though, I mean, a good portion of the objects in there are trinkets. You know what I mean? Like they're trinkets. Like they're not of real significant value if they were just in your home. And that's the one thing that does make me, again with this particular show, from what I watched, is going back to, these all have some pretty good quality price tags on them, when you see some of the things that he happens to collect.
Yeah.
And so that's what makes me skeptical. I mean, the Warren Museum, it is what it is, right? I mean, like you said, it's all a matter of relativity. Is it haunted? Is it not haunted? But I mean, really not much of the objects in there are of significant value. If you were to find them at a garage sale, you might pay $5.
Yeah, exactly. I remember when the first show came out, when the show first came out, and there was a particular one where they were looking for the source of activity, I think it was in a trailer or a mobile home or something like that. And they were actually, and Brian was actually the one digging below the house, and they just happened to come across this energy source that was buried with a thermal imaging camera, which they dug. I think they dug about half a foot into the ground, which was already pre-turfed over soil anyway. And they magically found this object, and I can't remember what it was, and there was some significant value in that as well. And I know it's TV and it's theaterized, but I don't know, with the show, it didn't really stimulate me to watch it because of it. Like Kathy said as well, it's just it just seemed ridiculous in the content of the way it was presented.
Well, I'm curious, and I don't know John Zappas personally. I know one of my team members, I believe, interviewed him back in the day. But what does he do with these items? I mean, is he taking them and putting them into his own museum and then charging people money to come in and look at them? Is he taking them out? Is he having them blessed or destroyed or whatever? I mean, I think that's kind of like the end game thing. Is like, all right, where are these things going? Is he profiting off of this somehow? You kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. I mean, I find it difficult to believe that he is into this, enough haunted items in people's houses that he can find enough of these things to make an entire series out of. One. And when we talk about like removing an object to see if that takes care of the activity, how many objects are in a home? I mean, you can narrow it down to an extent, but I mean, it just seems like it would just be absolutely time consuming.
It is, and they typically they gauged in with equipment, things like EMF meters, and I think they use K2 meters as well for what they're worth. And it just they were relying purely on the fact that obviously a sentimental object, and they were using the fact that there was energy, like whether it's EMF, regardless of whether the object was carrying static or anything like that. God blimey, if there was any natural reasons why an object was carrying a high level of static or something like that, but it was that denominator that it was that particular object was active because of the readings they got.
What do you think, Lynda?
I know I've been quietly sitting here. Well, first of all, I have to say, and you're right, Peter, you know, I tend to watch these shows because A, I'm on one of them, and B,
we'll get to you soon.
Yeah.
And B, I don't think it's a bad thing to watch paranormal shows. And I always tell people, if you're interested in the field, you have to immerse yourself in what's out there. You've got to get sort of, you know, the lay of the land and read and listen to and watch the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I'll tell you, I didn't hate this show. And one of the reasons why I didn't hate the show was because, like, in my years of working in the field, I've come across quite a few haunted objects and had to deal with clients who've had them. And what it did was it brought the attention to the fact that there could be attachments to objects, because prior to this, nobody really talked a lot about it. So I liked the fact that it brought the attention to the fact that, yes, there could be an attachment to an inanimate object. But yeah, I mean, it's TV and it has to be good TV. So sometimes you have to suspend, you know, some of the more logical things. And I love what you said, Kathy. I thought it was so funny. It's like, you know, yeah, this good, their quality item, Clark. So that's why we're going to hang on to them.
Yeah.
But I didn't hate the
I mean,
show.
if it was a haunted plunger,
Right.
and you still took it home, then,
Right.
you know, maybe I'd have more, there'd be a little bit more credibility there. But, you know, it's always like
haunted plunger. Oh no!
Well, that plunger's putting off some EMF. Boy, oh boy!
Yeah, Jesus, we better get an exorcist in to exercise that smell. Jeez.
That's right. There's a lot
Lynda,
of
I'm curious
to that plunger.
Lynda, what did you do with the haunted items?
What did I do with the haunted items?
Yeah, did you remove them? What did you do with them? Did you create a museum?
No, that I did not do. No. We had someone come in and clear the energy from a particular haunted item. I had a client who brought in, and see, that's another thing. If nothing is happening in your home and it's quiet and everything is great, and then all of a sudden you acquire an item from outside of that environment, you know, and things start to occur, that's when you question, okay, so what the hell did I bring home? And this lady had brought home an old dresser, and she was planning on making that the vanity in the bathroom. So cutting a hole in it and putting the sink in it. And it was a beautiful, beautiful dresser. But as soon as she brought that into her home and stored it in the basement before the renovations began, things started to occur. And so there was an energy attached to that particular dresser. So, you know, you have to work with the client, what they want to do. Do they want to get rid of it? In this case, no, it had already been installed. So we just, you know, had the energy taken away and everything was fine.
So you didn't have to remove the object at all?
No. And yet we had another client. I'm going to say this is in the 80s. I don't want to date myself, but that had a picture that they had bought at a yard sale. Again, you know, if your home or your apartment is really great and everything's fine, and then suddenly you bring an object into the home and things start to occur, that's when you go, okay, well, maybe it's attached to this object. This person actually got rid of the object, this picture, threw it down the incinerator in the apartment building, and it appeared by her front door again.
oh shit.
Well, that was a little weird. But eventually, yes, we actually took it away and got rid of it for her because she brought it back in her apartment and things started to happen yet again. And every time she tried to get rid of it, she couldn't get rid of it. It was the strangest thing. So we took it away, got rid of it for her, and everything stopped. So
I'd give it to the neighbor.
Yeah.
I would have smashed it with a haunted plunger.
We had a
Moving in gifts. Here you go.
we had an
Bring over some
investigation.
muffins just to be on the safe side.
Yeah, try it out. We had an investigation about 12 years ago in Vancouver where allegedly an activity was around. It was actually an old mirror, and there was never any parallels to the evidence that we got to this one mirror, but it was the same kind of thing as you, Lynda, is that the owner felt attached to it and can never give it away, and it was to the point where the husband was going to divorce the wife because she was so attached to this mirror, and it was like a complete obsession. But what was odd about the mirror is that we used the gizmos and gadgets and stuff like that. We never found anything, but that mirror was made out of sterling silver, and it was always cold to the touch.
Yeah.
Regardless if you ever went in there and if you know what sterling silver is, it does carry, it retains a lot of temperature and stuff like that. But when we went around it, like her furnace was going and stuff like that, you put your hand on it and it was freaking cold. It was to the point. And eventually the husband got it and he disposed of it. I think he took it up to the local dump and stuff like that. And almost as soon as he took the mirror out of the house, the wife changed. Her whole attitude changed towards that mirror. And it's weird because it's the kind of thing you see in movies as well. Like when they get attached to that, there's been hundreds of movies made about the same kind of thing, but there is some parallels to it. And like I said earlier, I don't believe in the frequency, but I certainly believe that objects can be haunted, for sure.
Absolutely, sure.
For sure.
Okay, so moving on. So the next show is number 9.
Jump to that conclusion.
Number 9, Paranormal Lockdown. Paranormal Lockdown is hosted by 2 veterans of the paranormal field, Ghost Adventures' Nick Groff and Paranormal State's Katrina Wyman. Despite their somewhat awkward chemistry, their experience makes for an informed and professional dynamic, as they tend to take a more thoughtful approach to their evidence rather than freaking out at the slightest provocation.
Are you attacking people?
Instead of one single night, the 2 spend 72 hours confined to a location, and their lengthy confinement often results in numerous pieces of evidence, however slight or dramatic, and often in broad daylight. Paranormal Lockdown is a raw, realistic, and less flashy approach to ghost hunting television. Number 8.
Sorry, the screen went a bit nuts then. Yeah, Paranormal Lockdown with Nick Groff. What do you think, guys? Lynda?
Well, now I used to watch this one all the time, and it was fun because we used to eat dinner and watch it.
Sorry.
That's okay. I didn't hate this one too. I thought it was all right. I like what they said about the awkward chemistry between the 2 of them. But no, I didn't hate it. I liked the concept of actually being locked down in a location for a lot longer than, like even 8 hours or 10 hours. I think it was interesting. There were comparisons that could be made. So one night in one area and the same, or another night in the same area and see what happens. I don't know. I didn't hate it. I thought it was okay. The concept was interesting. I really hate that portal box or whatever they have. I can't understand a damn thing it says.
Yeah. Yeah, any sense of credibility for that show went totally out the window when I saw that Huff box sitting there. But anyway, sorry.
I don't like the box. I think
I'm not even going to give the gratitude the name of the box, but it's an overpriced piece of crap. But anyway.
Trevor,
what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. You see some of the technology that comes out on these shows, and it's I don't know. It just gets it's borderline ridiculous. I really do like To me in that show, I think the reactions are much more genuine because it's so much more subdued. Especially coming from Nick Groff from Ghost Adventures, because Ghost Adventures, I mean, it's completely over the top when it comes to, you see a piece of dust floating across the screen and, oh my gosh. I mean, they are, it's so staged and just over dramatic, which makes for good television, right? But it also, in those types of shows, it really paints an unrealistic picture of what actual paranormal investigation is like. I mean, at least on my team, I don't have a lot of people jumping around freaking out every time they, something goes bump in the night. And I also agree that the longer that you can stay in a location, the better chances that you're going to have to catch something. And we've had the most success when we are in a location for 3-4 days and letting our equipment run. So I do like that aspect of it for sure.
We had talked about, we had actually talked about, trying to find a location to stay in. I think that would be fun. I think it would be a blast, for the four of us to go. I think we'll bring our haunted plunger just in case.
I'll bring 2.
The holy water, holy toilet water.
Yeah. But I mean, Nick, out of the Ghost Adventure group, I've always found to be the most calm and, credible, I guess, if you can. We'll get, I know that's one of the shows, so we'll just leave it at that. But I followed Nick, for a few years, I believe, on, I think it's Instagram, or is it Facebook? I think it's Instagram that we followed each other. I can't remember I'm pretty sure it's Instagram. He seems like a fairly decent, guy. Like, I mean, I've never really watched the show, but I would have to say, like, you're right. The longer that you get to spend in a location, you're going to have more stuff that, the Huff box or whatever it is that, I mean, there's a lot of controversy with that just in itself, which is, does make me very skeptical, but yeah, I'd have to actually probably, spend more than 5 minutes watching the show to give an honest opinion on it.
The contents of that Huff box, again, I'm not going to say the name of the box. It's not really the controversy what's inside it. It's the price tag he has associated with it. It's absolutely freaking horrendous. And anyway, I don't want to talk about him too much. Anyway, but he's a nice guy, really. He's lovely.
Yeah, he's a nice he seems like a nice person in general, Nick.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So Nick and I have parallels with the network that I work for. So indirectly we've crossed paths a few times, and he's a celebrity, but he's a good advocate for the field in relation to the reasoning why he stepped down away from Ghost Adventures. If any of you guys look about the stories that came out about it and the interviews that followed after. So it's that line where he's a TV celebrity, but he's a good advocate, and he presents himself well in the field as well, and he calls bullshit as well. So and it's what you said, Trevor, as well, with the spending any longer time in a location gives you the opportunity to look for trends in findings, and it enables you to get a repetitive readings as well, which ultimately on the scientific side, that's what we're looking for. If once we get a repetitive reading, certain dates and times, we're starting to make headway with the field. But that being said, without sounding like an old crone, I've done that so many freaking times in the past, and it's never really gelled together. I've tried to look for sequences in times and dates and stuff like that, and there's never been a certain pattern in relation to times. It's always been, for me, questions or the sense of the environment at that time as well, where that you get that in an active location, that nudge or a spike of paranormal activities kind of thing. So I can't really slate the show. I don't know. The lady, who's the lady's name that's in it? She was in Paranormal State.
Katrina. Katrina Weidman.
Yeah, she was kind of one of Ryan's team members during that show as well. And yeah, she kind of stuck up for herself against Ryan as well. So,
I can see why she would leave Paranormal State. That's
well,
for sure.
yeah, it was kind of dying a death. So yeah, no, I don't watch TV, so I wouldn't like to say whether it's good or bad. But it's the bit at the end where when they do find things, it's kind of slightly dragged out in the theaterized, perhaps. And
Yeah.
that would probably
I kind of really appreciate where you went with the whole, being a good advocate for the field.
Yeah.
I think that's so important. I mean, the thing about any of these TV shows, and the reason why I don't watch them, is because, in my opinion, they're very unrealistic.
They are.
There's so much Hollywood put into it and things like that, and it doesn't do. So when people come out like on a public investigation, they're thinking it's going to be demons all day. And it's going to be craziness and things flying off the walls and doors opening and closing. And it's not. And the reason why we'll get to Ghost Hunters. Maybe we're like already halfway through the show. And we're only on number 9, but if they're not catching things, it's boring TV. So, but aside from people have to make a living and things like that. And I totally understand that. The big thing is, what are they doing for the field though? Are they a good advocate for the field? Mm-hmm. Are they helping promote, good paranormal investigation and things? Are they educating the public, or, are we just doing this for the entertainment value and that's it? So, I really like that, Peter.
Okay. So moving on. We jumped to number 8, and Kathy, I don't want you to drag number 8 out too much, because I know you're a fan of the show, but we can just quickly glide through this one. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
One of my favorites, huh?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Number 8, Paranormal State.
She had a spirit tell her to cut herself.
Something in the bathroom.
While most ghost shows follow professional paranormal investigators, Paranormal State centers around a university club called the Pennsylvania State University Paranormal Research Society. Since outlines of the episodes were made in advance, and the producers created story arcs for the students, naysayers may feel as if it's overproduced, or even outright fake. However, regardless of your opinion on its authenticity and flair for the dramatic, there's no denying that there are numerous entertaining scares to be found. Just don't take it too seriously, and you may walk away a little unnerved.
What the hell was that?
Whatever. Something just moved right next to me.
Number 7.
Let's move on to number 7. And quickly, actually, we're kind of dragging out of time here, but anyway.
I have met Chad Kalick from Paranormal State. He is a really nice guy. He did inform us of a lot of the behind the scenes things from Paranormal State, which I won't get into here. Really nice guy. Ryan, I've met. I'm going to leave it there. And
that's a motorbike.
I don't like the show. I don't like the entire involvement of the show. I'm just going to leave it at that. I think that that's a nice, almost diplomatic way of saying stuff. So
okay. Lawsuit. Moving on, Lynda.
Oh, you want my opinion?
Yeah, go on in, Lynda.
Okay. Well, a lot of followers of my Paranormal Society really enjoyed Paranormal State. So when we would have our public paranormal meetings, a lot of them would talk about it. This is, of course, before all the controversy and all of that. But again, I don't know. I thought it was an interesting show. I think they're all interesting for different reasons. But I had my doubts about whether or not it was real. I think there was a lot of fakery. But I did like the fact that these, the concept was good, that they were interested in doing paranormal investigations, and what they did, it was sort of the infancy of the paranormal investigative shows out there. So I don't know. I mean, it was for its time, it was an interesting television show. There, how's that?
Trevor.
Scripted reality. I mean, that's kind of where it all began, right? I mean, you know, you take a group of young, beautiful people, throw them in a scary situation, give them a scenario, here, act this out, you know. The problem is, you know, again, what is it doing for the field? Is it a good show? Probably. Is it real? No. So and that's just it. I mean, and that's always been like my concern. If you know we start putting our stuff out there, I want to be credible. So I want people to go and say, okay, well, this is Western Idaho paranormal stuff. You can bank on that. They're not faking their evidence. They're not making this stuff up. You know, and I don't know if that's a possible to do and still maintain a popular TV show. So
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So with me, I'm going to talk purely on the entertainment side rather than the what they did or didn't do for the field. So at that particular time when Paranormal State was released, there was a 2-horse race between Ghost Adventures. It's Ghost Hunters, and Ghost Adventures was just kind of creeping up.
Right.
And for me, that show started the demise of demons more so than what Zach did at that time. And for that, their origins on their show were different to any other show in North America at that time, because every case that they went on was demonic, and it played it more into that kind of direction. And for that, it's a stepping stone for them. And, they did draw eyes on the show as well, because it was different to both, big beefy Zach or, Jason Hall's walking around with a monotone voice saying the same thing each week on each of the shows. It was different in that respect. But I don't have a lot of time for Ryan and what he'd done in the past on and off the show. And
I'm just going to make noise.
That with that as well. And it was a good show, but I think that it died to death after the show finished in relation to what Ryan did. And it kind of pooped it for me more than anything else.
Yeah,
I still got a DVD somewhere, actually. I might. Anyone want to buy?
Pete, there were some people on that show that, are still around today. I mean, you have Chip Coffey, who originated on that show, and he's now in, Kindred Spirits. And then you've got Michelle Belanger, who's been in a lot of other shows, including, I believe, Portals to Hell. She goes on that show sometimes. And so, right?
But they were drafted entertainers at that time. They used that show as a stepping stone. Like they had Warren, they had Lorraine Warren on there, and and it claimed that Ryan had a relationship with Lorraine for a long time, and it's the same with all the other cast members. But with Chip O'Coffey, that was the first time Chip ever met him and stuff like that. So these people were brought on the show to give the show a push rather than vice versa kind of thing. And they tried to use that frame to add more validity towards it, which, at the time, Lorraine and obviously Chip O'Coffey and Michelle's huge in her field as well. And it's just helping push that stone along kind of thing. So, okay, well, moving on. Okay, number 7 is from my origins.
Most Haunted.
If you want us to leave, then say get out.
Maybe there was get out.
Most Haunted is undeniably one of the most popular and certainly one of the longest running paranormal shows on television. It follows a team of investigators led by Yvette Fielding as they explore various haunted locations throughout Europe. While Most Haunted has been the subject of various controversies and claims of fakery, it's nevertheless a very spooky show, and its age alone can certainly attest to its popularity.
Can't see it. Don't let me go in here.
The crew's reactions may be on the melodramatic side, and it seems to be more of a ratings chaser than an authentic glimpse into the paranormal. But there is no denying that it still makes for entertaining and creepy television. Number 6, A Haunting.
Oh, is that what a ghost looks like? Oh.
There you go. So most haunting,
Love it.
Kathy, what do you think?
I might have watched one episode a long time ago, so I don't know if I really have an opinion on it, to be honest. I know that it has been like really long running. I'm gonna go, saying that I'm sure that there's obviously some credibility behind it, but I really don't know much about the show other than that.
To me,
Linda?
the hard part on any of these shows is like, I think a lot of them probably started out relatively legit, right? And they probably had like really good, good evidence and stuff like that. But then pretty soon you start wanting to drive those ratings up. And so you start to bring in more things, or you start inserting sounds that aren't there, and you start faking things. And then your credibility goes up, because even if you're catching good evidence, nobody can believe it, because, but again, I don't know that that's their purpose. They're not out there trying to present real reality. They're trying to make their paychecks, and so again, that's why you have those overly dramatic reactions to everything. And I've never seen the show. I'd actually never even heard of this show. I don't know that I've ever seen it air down here. I've never looked for it. I probably need subtitles so I could understand what everybody was saying.
Anyway, Lynda.
Okay, I love this show. I have to say, I love the fact that I was introduced to all these really cool locations, because I've always wanted to go to England, Ireland, Scotland. I've always wanted to go. So this was like my I don't know, my travel log. They went to some amazing locations, and I was really interested to learn about them. And I used to have a bet with my husband as to how long into the show would it take for Yvette Fielding to scream. So that was always fun. And also, I really like Cathryn O'Keefe. So I loved being introduced to Dr. Cathryn O'Keefe. I thought it was really cool. I don't know. It was just a fun show. Whether or not all of it was credible was debatable. However, it was so enjoyable as entertainment. So I'm just going to say that.
It was kind of one of the first shows that I really watched back in the UK. There was Derek Decorum, which even back then, when I first started watching it, it was kind of questionable with his reputation, because he did another show before that. I think it was, and Ian might know, Ian Thompson is also on the show, watching at the moment. It was called the Magic Circle or something like that, or the Triangle 8 or something like that. And it was a group of psychics that went around with Derek, and they went around to different properties doing readings, just with their psychic abilities and stuff like that. And they were trying to back it up with like research and evidence and stuff like that. It did start. The show did start in its origins with a certain amount of validity in relation to the show, and I know Cathryn O'Keefe, as you know, Lynda, and there's a couple of other people that work on the show as well that I know as well. And the show was, for probably the first decade, a credible show in relation to more of the historical overlap with the paranormal, more than the Yvette Fielding jumping out and stuff like that. And it was always that kind of, here we are in England, we've got this age-old castle that's almost 900 years old, and we're going to take you on a tour of it. And then you had you had the cast as well, that the historians and that kind of thing that brought that edged that in. And then you had the Cathryn O'Keefe, the parapsychologist, that added some normality to the whole environment. And it's just like, basically saying, in other words, you're as mad as shit at Yvette because you're screaming your head off on every show, that kind of thing. And I think that's kind of indirectly why he got shunned off the show. It was a good show, and it did die to death towards the end. And I don't know if it's still going now. I believe it is.
I think it is.
But it was. It is. Yeah, it's still going. I'm looking at the research at the moment, and it was it was a good show, and it was definitely it started. I think it started long before Ghost Hunters did. So in that respect and that content as well, it was one of the pioneer shows, and it was aired in North America as well. So
Yeah.
it was good in that. So okay, moving on to the next one, and now we've got Yvette's butt on the screen. We can go.
Haunting. A haunting is unlike the other shows of its kind, as it's more documentary than investigative. It tells the stories of various people who were seemingly afflicted by paranormal phenomena, and has dramatic reenactments play over commentary from witnesses. Because the show is more cinematic than realistic, the paranormal stories go down far easier, and the show is more easily digestible as entertainment.
I walked into the room and the piano was playing by itself.
The production is also far better than most shows that revolve around reenactments, as the effects are generally believable, and it's both well shot and well acted. Despite possible reservations regarding the stories, A Haunting is nevertheless a terrifying glimpse into the unknown.
I absolutely love that show. When that came out, I think it was 3 or 4 seasons they had of it, and it was one of those shows that had you. It had you engrossed to it because there was a lot of people that I actually know that were on that show as well, and that added to some of the validity on there. And at the end, yeah, you're right, because they've added that kind of Hollywood amp with probably a low budget, judging by the monster that they showed earlier as well. But it was I don't know, it kind of brings it close to home because, again, it was the guests that they had on the show that I know, like, I've got relationships with a couple of people on there, and I know that they weren't full of bullshit, and it wasn't their story wasn't amped up. It was just the theater effects to it more than anything else. That's me personally, and that's me coming down off of the TV shows and stuff like that. Lynda, what do you think?
Yeah, I used to love to watch that. I used to watch it. Well, I think it came on a couple times a week, and I would watch it because I thought it was interesting. And yes, some of the reenactments were a bit kitschy. However, the stories were great. I mean, if you're a fan of any kind of haunting stories, some of them were actually really scary. So I didn't mind that show at all.
Kathy?
I'm a little confused with this because I know that there was like a haunting in Connecticut, a haunting in I don't know if that's the same.
No,
this was a documentary show that was before those movies came out.
Yeah, no, I actually have never watched this, to be honest, so I don't have an opinion. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. Trevor?
So this is a completely different style of show, right? Because this is ghost stories. This isn't a paranormal investigation. These are just paranormal encounters that people are talking about. And yes, it's 100% for entertainment. And that's cool. I like that, because who doesn't like a good ghost story, right? And especially stuff that people have experienced themselves, and regardless whether the Hollywood embellishment and things like that, it's still they're fun stories. It's something you would tell around the campfire. You'd sit around watching at Halloween, trying to freak each other out. They're not trying to pass it off as a paranormal investigation. Where it's like, oh, this is actually happening, and we caught this on our Ovilus 6000 or whatever. It's good TV. That's a great show. It's like Unsolved Mysteries. They're just stories, and you can use your imagination, and yeah, that's great. I love it.
Okay, moving on. Number 5.
I love it.
Haunted Forest. Hello?
Destination Truth followed paranormal researcher Josh Gates as he traveled to various locations around the world to try and document.
Sorry, let me start that again. There's something wrong with the screen. Doesn't like sharing screens too much.
Hello?
Destination Truth followed paranormal researcher Josh Gates as he traveled to various locations around the world to try and document cryptozoological creatures. While there have been countless shows regarding the possibility of Bigfoot or another monster of the week, Destination Truth tackles the subject with humor and skepticism.
Oh my God, they're everywhere. There's zebras everywhere.
Gates and his team are hilarious and scathing, oftentimes disbelieving the outrageous stories. That said, they do find some downright chilling things, even if they're not mythological creatures, and the show makes for an informative look at various culture superstitions. And let us tell you, some of them believe in some creepy things.
Look, right there. No, it's totally there. What is that?
Number 4, The Dead Files.
Okay. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, I
Cathy?
love Destination Truth. Actually, Destination Truth actually really got me into more of the cryptozoology than anything else. Like, you know, even if they never really found anything or whatever, I really liked, I watched at least the first couple of seasons. I don't know how long it was on for because, you know, you just get busy with life and you're not really watching a lot of TV to begin with. But I really enjoy not only the destinations. I guess that would be like Lynda's Most Haunted. I mean, I love the places that they were going. I love the fact that they actually, some episodes that they actually got into some real trouble, you know, when it was, you know, sometimes with the islanders or the people in the town or, you know, whatever it was. Right. But I mean, when I watched it, I was like, I don't remember if they actually, I mean, the episodes that I caught, I don't remember if they ever actually saw anything tangible in regards to the cryptozoology, you know, crypto that they were looking for, cryptoids that they were looking for. But it was interesting. And it was, you know, I kind of like the fact that all of a sudden Bigfoot didn't appear on screen doing a, you know, dance. Like it was like they looked for him. But that isn't that what a lot of people that look for cryptos look, you know, that's what happens, right? So I like the show. That's my opinion. I thought Josh was hilarious too. Like, you know, stayed in the moment. Right? Yeah.
Agreed.
Lynda.
Okay, I'm with Cathy. I love Destination Truth. I love the locations. And actually, on that show was the first time I ever heard the word chupacabra. So that was kind of cool. But Josh Gates, despite perhaps an ego, sorry, Josh, I like him because he's really funny. There were some great jokes. He went to some great places like the forest in Romania that Doroshe has been to. And also, I think the funniest episode I ever saw was when they went to the Island of the Dolls in Mexico. It was
I remember that.
hilarious because they had a camera on him and he was standing next to this doll and the eyes were closed. And he said, if one of these eyes opens up, I'm going to crap myself. And just as he said that, the eye opened up. And it was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, I thought it was very, very intelligent, like an intelligent show.
Yes.
A lot of fun.
Yeah.
Trevor.
So I actually have never seen Destination Truth.
Oh my God.
I actually watched a lot of Expedition Unknown.
Yes.
And that was one that I watched a lot with Josh Gates. And Josh Gates is one of those guys. His personality is awesome on camera. I mean, it sounds. I've never met him. Maybe he has an ego and stuff. He's the kind of person that I would like to meet because he just seems like he's a fun guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's very theatrical, and it makes for good TV. So
Yeah, he does. Yeah, I'm the same. I think that what's interesting about that show and his previous show as well, that he kind of brings like different parts of the world, their culture into the like folklore as well and stuff like that. And it's kind of like him on an adventure more than, you know, Joe and Margaret going to a haunted house and asking a few questions kind of thing. And it just adds that variety to it about just that spread in relation to that term paranormal, which is good.
A lot of good education. I learned a lot watching his stuff. So
he's definitely he carries his own flagship in relation to a show as well. And I don't think that anyone's ever even come close to that particular type of content It's probably because he's got a huge budget, but kudos to him. He created something that was very unique to TV.
Yeah.
So,
Great.
okay, moving on. Number 4, Dead Files.
Get out of here. I own this.
The Dead Files is a paranormal investigation show with a twist. A medium, Amy Allen, and a retired homicide detective, Steve DeShabi, team up to tackle the paranormal at a given location.
Randy, let me ask you a question. I know a lot of people were buried on the property they lived on back in those days. What about Angie?
Amy traverses through the setting while channeling and communicating with the ghosts, while Steve interviews witnesses and gathers historical evidence regarding the location. While it's true that Amy's psychic channeling may take some getting used to and will undoubtedly turn a lot of people off, The Dead Files is nevertheless one of the more credible and unsettling ghost shows concerning psychics. Is that an oxymoron? Maybe, but it sure is fun.
I'm letting her jump me or enter my body so she can speak through me and I can feel her pain.
Well, that's weird.
I know.
No, thank you. Don't sign me up for letting anybody jump me.
I know. Anyway.
I'm going to speak on first. I actually really like this show, and one of the reasons I think is because being a psychic medium, I have experienced the same things that Amy has several times. I mean, not to that degree of like, oh, please enter me and blah blah. But you know what I mean? Like when you walk in, you know, if you're allowed or if you have that space in order to do so, you can channel a lot of the things, and there is a lot of historical accuracy that you can pick up while you're in the show or while you're in the residence. So I really do like the show. The one thing I never did like, though, I think Amy is pretty cool just as a person. But the one thing was that some of the things that she would recommend to the clients afterwards was like, find a shaman, I don't know, voodoo healer, blah. And I mean, these are things that you're never going to find in your, in your town. Right. So, instead of like, okay, let's do a crystal healing or let's do this, or even just bring in a normal priest or whatever it was, it was always some sort of like somebody that does a rain dance and has blue hair and, a shaman, like, like somebody that shakes maracas. Like, I don't know, but you know what I mean? Like it was always something over the top that she was suggesting to the clients to bring in. And, chances are the average person is not going to be able to find that. Like, what are you going to do? Put an ad in Kijiji saying, hey, who has like it's not going to happen. So, I mean, it felt to me always like they kind of left the clients in this place of like, okay, we're going to have to suffer through this. In the meantime, we have to, search all over the world, for this particular type of healer. That I had a little bit of a problem with. The show itself, though, and what she does, I really do like. And I've watched a lot of things on both her and Steve on separate occasions. And, they really don't have contact with each other, which I really did like. Like, I found that was really pretty cool. Some of the things that she would pick up. That's just nice.
I've never watched an episode. I saw the ad a few years ago when it first came out, and it kind of took me off where you got this rough Brooklyn cop interviewing people about their paranormal experiences, and just thinking in my back of the head at some point he's going to hold a gun to their head and get them to confess something.
It's that New York accent, you got to talk tough.
I know, and it's just
it
was just having that like that rough, how you doing, and all that. And it just, I don't know, and the psychic thing as well. It's been done before in other TV shows, and I've never seen the show, but I that kind of thing wouldn't really stimulate me to watch anything like that because it's cut and paste of other things.
Well, I've never seen the show either, but I have been to a location that they did the show at. And I know the people that talked to them. And I talked in depth about the experience that they had with Dead Files, and they were very impressed. Right. They were very impressed with Amy and the stuff that she did for them. And yes, she did recommend the rain dancing shaman with the maracas and blue hair. I've got some great ideas for Halloween costumes this year. But as I understand it, they said that she helped locate one for them.
Oh, good. That's good. Okay.
And so I don't know if she does that for all the people that she
Right.
works with and stuff.
Well,
but
Amy
I
just
do know
said
that they were very impressed, and actually,
Yeah.
As I understand it, Amy did a lot of good for that location. So, and we still go to that location to investigate.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So, yeah.
That's one of our chat, Amy, by the way, not the same Amy. She says they've begun to have an actual team of folks who can fill those roles. So that's good because, you know, like again, as I was watching, I was like, where in the hell are they going to find these people? Like, you know, like,
I know.
that was my only issue with it. But otherwise, I really enjoyed the show. Yeah.
I'm gonna Google like blue-haired rain dancing
shamans with maracas.
Maracas.
I don't know.
There's got to be a thing for there. I'm sure there's an app for that.
I'm still trying to find a chaos magician here in Keswick, but
yeah,
I can't find one. But
Okay, Lynda, what do you think?
I actually don't mind the show at all. I like the formula, and it is formulaic, but I think it works. Amy is a physical medium, so sometimes she does sort of look a little odd when she's doing her thing, but that's okay. You know, if you can get past that, then it's really interesting. But I do like the formula. I like the fact that they do a sketch with a sketch artist, and that, you know, there's no contact between Steve and Amy during the show, and that they come together at the end. I do like that. And honestly, on one of Michelle DeRoche's shows, she did interview Steve Deshavi, and he actually is a really nice guy. You know, if you could get past the New York accent, then you're okay. He's very sensitive. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah, I like that. I really did. I've always really enjoyed the show. So, I mean, you know, for me, it was always interesting. I liked the concept of how they did it, you know, and it wasn't, I don't know. It was just, somebody had said that, I think, what did they say again? Something about that they like the way that they do the investigations. Yeah. And I mean, they really do a lot of research into the locations and stuff like that. And I found that was, you know, you don't see that a lot in some of these ghost shows, or if you do, it's, you know, it's really a crap investigation, to be honest. Like, let's be real.
And in that aspect, it's very good because that paints a very realistic picture of what needs to happen in order to do a good investigation. You've got to have that research done.
And I like too is that even it, like there's times where she might be a little bit off on the research. You know what I mean? But the general idea is there, like, you know, she might have felt that there was I'm just using this as an example. This isn't real, but she felt that there had been an army base on there, you know, or on the land where, you know, and the fact was that they had used the house maybe temporarily for, you know, a week or a couple of days. But, you know, the impression that she is getting is very closely matched to the research that is found. And I did enjoy that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, moving on. Number
3, Paranormal Witness.
I made our session for you.
Thank you. The concept here is incredibly generic. People tell their stories of unexplainable and possibly paranormal phenomena. That's about it. While the concept is nothing new, Paranormal Witness stands above the oversaturated crowd due to its production values and captivating stories. These stories are not only frightening and unsettling, they can also be highly emotional, which makes for a sensitive viewing experience not found in other paranormal programs.
All of a sudden, I felt like a hand grabbed my hair.
These are scary ghost stories told with a keen directorial eye, and each segment feels like its own satisfying short film. If you're out of good scary movies to watch, Paranormal Witness is certainly worth a gander.
show is rubbish.
Never heard of it. That's a weird one. I don't know.
I think if I was going to choose a show like that, I know. Is yours was Paranormal Survivor though, wasn't it, Lynda?
It was, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, darn it. Yeah, see, I was confused too. I was going
I would
it's
choose
Peter's fault. I was going off of
Survivor
what Peter was saying.
Yeah, over Paranormal Witness. Just saying.
So, but
I've
this
never
is a
watched
good.
it. I can't share comment on this, so it's.
Well, for me, again, it's ghost stories, right?
Yeah, just ghost stories with a narration of,
so,
I guess,
is it good TV? Yeah. Is it creepy? Yeah. Great. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't look like anybody's trying to pass it off as some paranormal investigation. That I guess that's kind of my pet peeve is when we get these paranormal investigation TV shows that are just blowing things up that just irritates me.
Yeah. Okay, we gotta move this along because we've gone past that time. So, Kathy.
For what I like I said, I would prefer to watch Paranormal Survivor rather than Paranormal Witness. That's my with our beautiful Lynda.
Yes,
absolutely.
Same. Lynda.
You know what? I always thought this was a bit over the top in terms of production, but again, it's one of those shows that came on late at night here, and I would kind of just, I don't know. I would go in favor of a haunting. I like that one better than this one. So
yeah, no, I do as well. It was kind of the original documentary show, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, moving on.
Number 2, Ghost Hunters.
Did you hear that? That sounded like a door opening. That was weird.
No discussion of paranormal investigations is complete without a mention of Ghost Hunters. It's undoubtedly one of the most popular ghost shows, and it provided both over a decade's worth of freaky entertainment and some of the most compelling evidence of paranormal activity ever captured on video.
Jacob, is that you trying to communicate with us?
Sure, some people may criticize the show for its slow pace, but that's what makes it even more authentic and believable. You need the slow episodes to further validate the paranormal occurrences. This and Ghost Hunters International are some of the most reputable ghost hunting shows, and their realism makes the unbelievable all the more terrifying. Before we spook you with our top...
Okay, Ghost Hunters.
Why don't you start, Peter?
Do I have to, really? It was a show that was unique at the time for North America in relation to how they approached paranormal investigating. There wasn't really anything around at that time that was equally matched. They did have both Jason and Grant were they had a good concept back then in relation to the show. Without going to nitty gritty of my personal feelings, but I think that the whole show and the elements, regardless of whether it's Ghost Nation or Ghost Hunters, has died its death quite dramatically, and it continually goes on with the same concept as well. Not discouraging both Jason and Grant in relation to what they've done. I think that they should be applying their skills into starting something completely new in relation to the field, personally. And that's my comment. And I'm going to leave it like that. We can talk about it off air.
So Ghost Hunters for me was the first paranormal investigation show that I ever saw. And having grown up when I was younger in a haunted house and not realizing, what was going on, and it wasn't something I ever really was able to talk about to people. And then I saw that show and I was like, oh my gosh, people do this? And that's actually what inspired me to go out and seek a paranormal team and to find out what it was about. And the thing I appreciated about it the most in the beginning, for sure, was that it seemed a very logical approach to paranormal investigation. And, I think that the earlier episodes were very authentic. I think those most represent what an actual ghost hunt looks. They were going out for one night for 6-7 hours, and then they most of the time they weren't catching anything. And again, that makes for boring television. And so you want to keep your ratings, you want to keep your show. Producers get involved, pretty soon directors get involved, and I think you start getting stuff. Now they'll tell you that they're out and investigating an area for a week, and maybe that's the truth. But the moment you start faking evidence, your credibility starts going out the window. And I hope that that's not the case. And I'm not saying that it is, but you do have to admit there is a very big difference in the show today as it was in the beginning with the amount of evidence that they're catching. So, but again, I think that show really brought paranormal investigation into the limelight and really made it popular, made it okay for people to talk about it. And it kind of made it very acceptable and easier for paranormal investigators to get into locations.
Absolutely. I think that's one thing I have to agree with for sure. I mean, I actually didn't even know the show existed. I think it was, I don't even know how many seasons it was already into when I had already become a paranormal investigator. And somebody had mentioned Ghost Hunters to me. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know there was a show about this. Like, this is pretty cool. And that's when I started watching it. I mean, for me personally, I was already, the one thing it did really help with is because one of the reasons I had seeked out a paranormal team, I had no plans on joining it at that time, but I ended up becoming, a member of the team and then eventually running it, was because we were having our own haunted house. And so watching Ghost Hunters for me was like validation that I wasn't like crazy, or even for that matter, even though you meet a paranormal team and you start working with them, you're still in that place of like, am I the only one experiencing this shit? Or, you know what I mean? Like you're still doubting a lot of, yourself in many, many ways. And so watching Ghost Hunters to me was like, it was validation that you're not completely insane. I'm saying completely, but notice that. But you know what I mean? Like for me, it was like, wow, okay, like there's people all over North America that are going through this, and obviously because I never really watched a lot of, ghost hunting shows, and I was too busy. I was a mom. I had jobs. I was, a single parent, and you've got shit going on all over your house. So you don't have time for this, you know what I mean? But for me, it was like a really strong validation that you weren't completely nuts. And, but, and also too, I mean, it really, like you said, it really brought it into the mainstream, a lot of it. And, it opened up a lot of doors, but also too, even for investigators, it did sort of, I mean, it taught us about equipment. I mean, where to set it up, or, how to, different ideas that you could bring in or bring forward as well. And I think it really expanded a lot of territory for investigators in general.
They were, like I said earlier, they were the pioneers of the show. And obviously yourself, Cathryn and Trevor, we were all a part of TAPS at one point as well.
Yeah.
I was director of TAPS, and they were the pioneers in relation to that. And they helped people that were in utter despair to have that direction, knowing that there was a TV show or there's people out there that can actually help, hence TAPS family and what we did as well. And it added to that. But it's that thing where you've got the same concept and you're painting the same color line for year in, year out. Then all of a sudden the paint starts drying out.
Yeah.
It just dies its death. And it's like I say, I'm not begrudging. Well, Grant's obviously, Grant's doing other things as well, but there's still that Ghost Hunters name with Jason and Grant, as far as I'm concerned. That they should be doing other things in the field, rather than just doing the same thing that they've done continuously for like the last 20 years. That's what I feel as well. I know that they were thinking about that once upon a time when the show was in that transition stage where it went off there, because I was a part of that conversation. But anyway, needless to say, Lynda, what do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was the most normal show out there. It was sort of more indicative of what we actually do as paranormal investigators. And I loved it for the fact that, you know, not everything was a demon.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which, of course, takes us to number one, right, Pete?
Yeah. Fantastic. Okay, so number one is.
I'm leaving.
Dun, dun, dun. No volume. Do we need volume? Yes, we do.
Oh my god.
Ghost Adventures is arguably the best and easily the scariest paranormal show on television, despite its rather eccentric hosts. The series follows several easily excitable men as they investigate haunted locations with high-end scientific equipment like infrared and structured light sensor cameras. And what results is some of the most incredible evidence ever captured on camera. While some may yearn for the old days when it was just 3 of them with video cameras, Ghost Adventures is still a highly entertaining show that features some of the most compelling proof of the paranormal. Even the skeptics have to admit that these guys have caught some.
There we go.
Yeah. Well.
So, meanwhile, back at the haunted.
I would like to go back to haunted plungers. Yes, please.
So, here's my thing, and this is talking purely entertainment. These guys
Yes.
lead the march as it goes with TV and entertainment. They've lynched onto a market that far exceed us in relation to what our thoughts and opinions are being that serious paranormal investigator. They've hit an audience that absolutely adores them in relation to their theateratics, and if there's such a word, and their Hollywood dramatization. And kudos to them. I think that they're very successful in what they do. In relation to how they're represented in our field, very negative in promotion to like demons and how we should be treating clients as well, where, you know, that kind of slapdash, go in there and what's going on here, frighten the crap out of a client and walk out the door without any explanation. So that kind of side is that's a negative for me, and that always burns my gears as well, and it's particularly in the early shows. But as far as it goes with entertainment, they definitely lead the march, and they should be number one in that respect.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they are very entertaining. The problem I have is they try to pass themselves as a legitimate paranormal investigation show. And another location they came to here in Idaho that I've investigated several times and had an opportunity to talk to the people that run it and about the stuff that they were making. I mean, they make up stories about the locations that are not true. You know, and you see the reactions to the stuff that they're posting as evidence. You get this little squibble in a voice recorder, and oh my gosh, it's a demonic voice. You know, again, the entertainment factor, absolutely, but just say that, you know, this is shows for entertainment, and you know, it is what it is. But it does a lot of harm to people who think that it's real, because that's just not how it is. I mean, do demons exist? Absolutely. Is everything a demon? No. So, you know, I don't know. You know, I think Zach did a great job at building his industry, and he built himself up, and he's become very famous. And kudos to him. Anybody that can make that image and have success in it, I have mad respect for. But as far as like being a ghost hunter, come on, they get to go to some cool locations. I mean, it's fabricated. So,
Lynda?
Yeah. You know, again, for its entertainment value, I think it's fantastic. But the problem, of course, has always been that people believe it. And when they go to an investigation, a live investigation that we do, and you know it too, guys, they expect the Ghost Adventures experience. And it's just not real. But I mean, it's fun. And kudos to Zach. I mean, he is a great self-promoter, and why the hell not, you know?
I have to agree with what you just said. I mean, you know, I think that Ghost Adventures basically created, this phenomenon of everything is demonic. And, when you're an investigator and you've got your phone going on
Demon
at 3
soda.
o'clock in the
Demon
morning.
soda.
Yeah. You got your phone going off at 3 in the morning with some person that's freaking out because they just watched freaking Ghost Adventures and thinking that now their house is haunted. You kind of have a bit of a dislike for these people. And I mean, as we all know, going into an investigation, you really don't know what you're walking into. You can do the research on it, but you really aren't, knowing the actual, what are we really walking into? And I mean, 99.9% of the time, it's going to be fairly harmless. But at the same time, when you have some person who's just watched these shows or has spent a time watching these shows without the, reality of what can happen, and they're screaming, scratch me. And now you're dealing sometimes with a totally different thing. And because of people's own energy, they can actually make things worse than what it was, whether that's in their mind or whether that's in a physical, presence. Right. But I mean, watching these things, and we all know that there's such a difference between something, somebody says, oh, something got thrown across the room when it's actually moved over half a bloody inch on the table, as opposed to being chucked against a wall. Mm-hmm. But people, because they're watching these shows, it plays with their head. And especially something like, Ghost Adventures, where, there's been other people that have invested these in, locations and been like, there's nothing there. Or, it's like Granny Joe, like nothing, it's like nothing is happening. It's not this demonic entity, that they have created. But this is how people's brains work and their minds work, and it turns it into something completely different. And that's where I have an issue with the show personally. So,
okay, thank you guys. So we are reaching the end of the show. I'm going to play just one more clip, this is my favorite show of all time. I just love it so much.
What should it be?
I don't know. I'm just going to play a clip. That's my show.
That's your favorite show.
I can get behind that show.
What's that?
I can get behind that show. But yes. It also says something, because I know you, right?
I know.
And so I know that you're going to put out something that isn't a bunch of BS, right? So, I mean, at least I hope so. But
I'll tell you what, Trevor, it was definitely, it was never going to happen. I'll put it that way. And Lynda can probably testify over the years, the amount of people that have been in contact with various groups about wanting to start shows and stuff like that, and they've never been right for me. We had at one point, I had a contract lined up with Mark Miller from Discovery, who's a famous producer in Canada, and we were going to do a show kind of in conjunction with Daily Planet. And thanks, Amy. And it was, it just wasn't right, because it wasn't to how it was be perceived as paranormal investigating. And it was, so it was dropped. And then I met Jason, and we were approached by a producer from Texas, actually, believe it or not. And we went through the pretenses and said no. And then Jason said, well, I know a few connections. Let's just start something up. And then it was just us on the pretenses of a camera just piggybacking in us with investigating and what we did. And we had zero expectations whatsoever with the show. But lo and behold, we are now approaching the second year. We've won 2 awards, and next year, and I can't say too much at the moment, but next year looks like we're going to start lifting off in relation to the direction we're going as well. So it's good, and it's in the category I like it as well. It's a documentary, and it's not theaterized or anything like that. It's like what you see is what you get, and if we have an investigation where nothing happens, God damn it, we sit down and explain exactly the parameters of the investigation and how we got to where we got in the investigation, rather than making stuff up and just putting 2 and 2 together and making 8. So it was a good show.
Good deal,
Love
man.
it. Okay, well, thanks, guys. Thank you, everyone that tuned in. And if you like the show, and I'm trying to find the clip, yeah, there you go. If you like the show, please like and subscribe to our channel. And yeah, we'll be back next week with a guest. I can't remember who it is next week, but we'll be back next week anyway. You guys have a wonderful week, and yeah, take care.
Take care, everyone.
Bye, everybody.